I spent 5 years in these forests. With no money, no loans, and no friends, with just an old Lada and an old run-down farm, this is Farming Simulator Jungle No Man's Land. The journey started difficult, getting through all the bushes, dodging the trees that grew out in the middle of the road, but eventually we made it, our new home.
Man, this looks rough. We have trees growing everywhere. Some of them have already fallen. I want to check the house real quick. We got a bush just growing inside already. Branches just growing inside. I wonder, do we have light? Oh, yes we do. That's good. A tree is just growing through the roof of the shed.
But right away we got a problem. To clear the bushes and trees we need a chainsaw. That costs $1,000, and we are about $1,000 short. I ran around for a bit, but eventually found some small pieces of wood around the corners. Found quite a few. Opened the Lada's back, loaded them up into the Lada, put some straps on, and went off to the store. But the journey wasn't easy with all of those trees growing in the middle of the road. But eventually I made it. Sold all the wood scraps for $312, ran to the dealer, pushed open the massive doors, opened the catalog. But unfortunately, all the chainsaws were priced at $1,000. But I got an offer to buy a hatchet, which cost us $50. It won't be as fast, but at least we can start working. I ran back to the car and went back to the farm. I immediately took my new hatchet and started cutting the fallen trees into smaller pieces, but it was super slow. It took me 2 hours to chop just the 2 dead trees, but nevertheless, I loaded as much wood on the Lada as possible, put some straps on, and went to sell it. The first load sold for $647, the second for $445, and the third one for $1,075. Ran into the store. After some considerations, I sold back the hatchet, bought a chainsaw for $1,000, and the cheapest log trailer for $150. Hopped back into the Neva, attached the trailer, and went back home. But when I came back, I had some thoughts.
We still have plenty of logs on the ground, but I think it would be smart to cut down these small trees first, as that would free up some space in the yard.
I started cutting down all the small trees. And in just a couple of hours, the yard went from something out of a horror movie to something that kind of looks like a farm. But that's just the beginning. We have even bigger plans for these lands. I filled up the trailer with logs and went off to sell.
Man, driving around all these bushes and trees is so annoying. But we can't cut them, as we don't own this land.
Sold the first load for $3,110, second one for $4,625, third one for $4,052, and the last one for $2,253. All in all, we got $15,362. I ran to the store to see if we could afford any tractor, but unfortunately, all of them were too expensive. So I spent $12,000 on a skid steer and $3,000 on a log fork, hopped into the skid steer, attached the log fork, and went home. But to start farming, we need to clear some land first. I took my chainsaw and started cutting them all down, cut them into smaller pieces, and started loading them onto the trailer. It took us the whole day, but we sold everything and got $29,533. But I was incredibly tired, so I went inside and went to sleep. Woke up early. At 6:30, I was out the door again. We cleared this whole area yesterday. It's only May. We should plant something. I ran to the store and bought this Massey Ferguson 397 series with 87 horsepower, a manual transmission, and a 216-kilogram front weight for $19,650. Spent another $7,500 on a planter and $945 on some seeds. Hopped in the tractor, attached the seeder, loaded it full of seeds, and went off home. Started planting. But I had to keep it straight by myself as it didn't have GPS. It only took about 30 minutes to plant the whole field. But we got many more jobs on the to-do list. I wanted to park the tractor, but
We still have these trees growing through the roof. But if I cut it down here, it will screw up the whole roof. I need to cut the upper part first. Just need to find a way to climb up there. Let's just park this skid steer next to the house. Raise it as much as possible. Jump on the roof, then on the shed. Easy enough.
I cut down the top part, then cut down the bottom, chopped it into small pieces, and threw them all to the side. Parked the tractor. Hopped into the Lada and went off to the store. Spent $150 on a hand-pushable mower and $200 on a hand-pushable forage wagon. Loaded them onto the Lada, put some straps on, and went back home. Unloaded the mower and started cutting the grass. First mowed around the toilet, then around the house, then around the workshop and silos. I even mowed a bit around the field, so we wouldn't get too many weeds growing on the fields. The yard started looking way nicer, but we need to store it somewhere. I opened the catalog. All the silos were insanely expensive, so I built a hairdryer for $1,000, unloaded the windrower from the Neva, and began collecting all the grass. Managed to fit it all inside. Got 9,800 liters of grass and 2,000 liters of hay and silage. The yard looks so much cleaner now, but we should expand while we have some free time. I hopped into the Neva, loaded in all the small logs from the shed, put some straps on, and went off to the store, sold it for $1,451, ran to the store, and bought a slightly bigger trailer for $1,050, attached it, and went back home, picked up the chainsaw, and started cutting all the trees on our lot. Took a whole day, but we cleared most of our land. Around 60 trees on the ground. Now I only need to sell them all. Got into the Lada, parked it next to the logs, and started loading them all in. It took 3 months, but we sold them all. Land is free of logs, and for all that work, we got $186,792. While we were cutting the logs, corn became almost ready for harvest, but the yields will be horrible. We didn't spray any herbicide or fertilizer over them, but it's too late now. We also got 7,000 liters of silage and hay in the dryer. But first, I hopped into the Lada and went off to the store, parked the car, and went inside. Checked the used vehicle section first. I ended up buying a corn header for $6,153, 69% off the new price, and bought a simple New Holland harvester for $16,000. Spent $1,650 for a cultivator. Spent another $7,700 on a 1.2-meter wide plow, and $1,000 for delivery to the farm, hopped back into the Lada, and went home. By the time I came back, all the equipment was already in the middle of the yard, parked the combine, parked the cultivator, and then the plow, and got to thinking, we don't have much land. We need some high-margin products that would generate a lot of money from a small plot of land. I decided to build a cow pasture that cost us $15,002, plus another $30,000 for the fence. The pasture can hold up to 58 cows. We have no chance of feeding so many of them. I bought 10 newborn water buffaloes, 10 6-month-olds, and 4 18-month-olds to keep them all in check. They have so much space. We need to make some food for them. We got some hay and silage for a couple of days. I spent $15,000 to construct a simple TMR mixing station, and another $1,000 on some dirt around it. But to make TMR, we also need straw and mineral feed. So I hopped into the Neva and went off to the store. First, I bought a simple trailer for $2,500. Bought a bale fork for the skid steer for $600. A universal bucket for $1,600. A pallet fork for $1,700. 3 straw bales for $4,428. And 2 pallets of mineral feed for $2,000. They even loaded it all up on the trailer for me. I just attached it and was on my way. Parked the Lada. Got into the skid steer. First unloaded all the attachments. Loaded all the straw into the mixer, then the mineral feed, activated the mixer. In just a couple hours, we should have some total mixed ratio. So I decided to go get some rest for a couple of hours. But when I opened my eyes, it was 9 a.m., and all of our animals were dead. Just kidding, they had plenty of grass to chew on. I hopped into the skid steer and started loading all the TMR into the feeder. Loaded 10,000 liters, which should last a while. I have no idea how long, to be fair, but we have no time to try and calculate. We need to do something with all the new lands we got before winter comes. I opened the shop catalog and ordered a 4.3 wide mower for $18,000, a windrower for $19,500, and a forage wagon for $5,700. Paid an extra $1,000 for the delivery again. And while I was waiting, I demolished the old grass dryer and built a new, bigger one for just $2,000. When I was done building, all the equipment was already in the middle of the yard. So I hopped into our lovely Massey Ferguson, attached the mower, and started cutting all the grass. Windrowed it all, and loaded it into the grass dryer. We got about 110,000 liters of grass, but it was getting dark, so I went to get some rest. The morning surprised me, though. The corn was finally ready for harvest. I hopped into the combine, but quickly ran into a problem. The header was too heavy for the combine. So I sold it off and spent $5,500 on a smaller one, attached it, and began harvesting. The yields were abysmal, though. We got only 3,427 liters of corn from the whole harvest. I went to check up on animals next.
They seem to be doing just fine. The health is at 100%, and they have 5.9 thousand liters of TMR left, which means they eat about 4,000 liters per day. And we got 33,000 liters left in the mixer. The only thing we lack is mineral feed. We should buy some more of it and increase our livestock numbers.
I hopped into the Neva, attached the trailer, and went off to the store. Parked the trailer close so they could load it straight into it. Ran inside and bought 6 pallets of mineral feed for $6,000, put some straps on, and went back. Loaded in all the mineral feed, filled up the animal feeder, and went off to do the last job before our winter break. Attached the plow and started turning the soil over so it could ferment during the wintertime. I also expanded the field a little bit because it was dead ground all around, and ran to have some rest. But winter came, and all the ground froze. We had only one job, keeping the animals alive. I also spent some time clearing the snow, but that's about it for the winter. Finally, the weather got a bit warmer. First, I checked up on the animals. They were completely fine. There was still plenty of food left. I want to plant some potatoes this season, though, but we need to do it quickly. I hopped into the Massey Ferguson and went off to the store. Found this beautiful 2-row potato planter that works 2 meters a time. Bought it for just $1,300. Spent another $1,260 on some seeds. Attached the planter, loaded in some seeds, went home, and started planting. It was working flawlessly. It's so hard to see where we planted already without the GPS. We did just 4 runs, and we are out of seeds already. This is literally all we planted, just these few rows. I hopped into the Lada, attached the trailer, and went off to the store to get some more seeds. But the dealer gave us some smart advice. Rather than buying seeds in the bags, we just bought 2 pallets of potatoes for just $1,900. It's about 2 times cheaper. I just put some straps on, and off we go. Loaded some potatoes into the planter, and continued the work. Took half a day, but we managed to plant the whole field. We got just 94 liters of potato left. I parked the planter. We just need to fertilize the field now. I went off to the store to see if we could afford any fertilizer spreaders. We could only afford 2 fertilizer sprayers. The first spreads over 18 meters and costs $3,450, and the other one spreads 10 meters and costs $1,200. It was a hard decision, but I ended up buying the more expensive one for $3,450 plus $250 for extension. Spent another $1,920 for some bags of fertilizer. Attached the sprayer, loaded in the fertilizer, and went back home. I quickly fertilized the field, parked the sprayer, and didn't have much to do, so we decided to clear the rest of our plot of land, picked up the chainsaw, and started cutting down all the trees. We cut down every single tree in our lot, loaded them up onto the trailer, and started selling them off. It took a full month to sell all the logs, but we got $124,464. I immediately bought a new piece of land for $85,000. And the first thing I did was clear the road on that part of all the trees and bushes. About a third of the road to the shop is finally clear. We should diversify our farm. I opened the catalog, built 2 gardens for $15,000 each, and 2 flower nurseries for $1,500 each, and 3 apple trees for $1,000 each. I ran to check the gardens first. To grow crops, we need seeds, solid fertilizer, and water. The flower nursery only needs water, though. I spent $5,000 on an automatic watering system that takes water from the lake and gives it to the gardens. The only thing we need is fertilizer and seeds now. I hopped into the Neva and went off to the shop, bought 3 pallets of solid fertilizer and 3 pallets of seeds. It's officially 1 year on our new farm. We did a good job, I think. We got animals living in the pasture, apple trees growing, some flowers growing, even some vegetables growing. But it's time to get back to work We need to cut the meadow again. I hopped into the tractor, attached the mower, and started mowing it. Windrowed it all, and stuffed it all into the grass dryer. In total, got over 140,000 liters of grass. But we got some serious planning to do.
We need to plan out the new fields, as the animals don't need nearly as much grass as we got fields.
But before we go to do all the plowing necessary, the apple trees produce the first boxes of apples. What about the gardens, though? It has 600 liters of each vegetable, a bit over half a pallet. I hopped into the lada, opened the back, and loaded in all the apples. Put some straps on.
Come here, you little... Nah, they are too fast to catch.
Got $5,400 for all 3 boxes. Not bad to be fair, but when I came back I noticed something strange. The flower nurseries produced absolutely nothing, even though they only need water, and they got plenty of that from the lake. I demolished both the flower greenhouses and spent $4,000 on this raspberry garden. Activated the water supply from the lake, but it also needed seeds, so I just gave the few bags we got left from planting potatoes. But enough beating around the bush, we need to go plow the new field. I hopped into the Massey Ferguson, attached the plow, and began plowing. By the time we were finished, it was pitch black, so I parked the tractor and went straight to bed. The morning brought us some surprises. The apple trees produced some apples again, and the garden got us some vegetables finally. We even got some raspberries already. Just need to get some seeds. Hopped into the lada, attached the trailer, first loaded in all the apples, then all the vegetables and fruits, put some straps on, and went off to the store, sold it all for close to $30,000. But had to buy a whole lot of supplies again. Bought 6 pallets of seeds and 2 pallets of solid fertilizer. Carefully loaded it all into the gardens. We need to spray some herbicide and fertilizer over the potatoes. I spent $1,350 on the cheapest sprayer, $2,400 on a tank of herbicide, $3,200 on a tank of liquid fertilizer, and an extra $1,000 for farm delivery. Hopped into the tractor, attached the new sprayer, sprayed some fertilizer first, then herbicide, parked the sprayer, and decided to clean up our yard a little bit. First made a road to the new field, and also cleaned up the yard a little bit. I wonder, can we still plant something? We can still plant some vegetables, but we got no cedar for them, and no money to buy one. So I picked up the chainsaw and went back to the jungle, cutting every tree in sight. Cleared most of the new lands, over 100 trees on the ground, hopped into the tractor, attached the log trailer, parked it near the logs, and started loading. It took 3 months, but the land is clear. Only bushes and meadows left. For all that work, we got $265,000. Through the whole summer, we also produced 4 pallets of raspberries, a whole lot of vegetables, and some apples. 3 boxes per tree to be exact. But first, we need to get to the store. Why did we come here, you may ask? For this, we have a used C-Series case tractor for sale with a 51% discount, with 117 horsepower, at $40,000 at base price, plus $22,500 for all the options, for a total price of $62,516. Spent another $10,000 for an electric potato harvester, $12,000 for a bale trailer, $7,000 on a case seeder, $1,550 on a 900-kilogram front weight, and $12,930 on a grain trailer.
Man, we got so much equipment, even though it's used. It does look brand new. Even the inside is in pristine condition. Seems to be driving fine as well.
I attached the front weight and started moving all the machinery back home. But all this new machinery brought new problems. We don't have enough space to park it all. Started shopping for some sheds. Some of them were very small, some too big. But I found this beautiful one for $20,000. I parked all the machinery in the shed and went off to harvest the potato. The yields were insane, though. We got all of these boxes full of potatoes. The land must be very good for potato growing, but we need to sell them all now. I hopped into the skid steer. I first set aside a few boxes in the shed for future planting and loaded the rest onto the trailer. Sold the first load for about $20,000, the second for $9,199. And all the vegetables and fruits got us another $70,000. All in all, we got $226,098. I made my way back, but had many thoughts on how to spend all this new money we got. On one hand, it would be smart to invest in some new production and expand the farm in this way. But on the other, the road to the shop with all those trees on it is starting to seriously get on my nerves. I decided to clear the road first, spent $75,000 on field 46, and another $75,000 on field 56, ran back to take the chainsaw, and started clearing this stupid road. And after almost 2 years on the farm, we finally have a clear road from the farm to the shop. But enough chit-chatting. We got some work to do. The grass dryer produced a ton of silage. 142,000 liters to be exact. I got into our new tractor, attached the new trailer, loaded it full of silage, and started selling it all. Got $8,392 per load. It took a few runs back and forth, but managed to sell it all, and got our balance to $117,380. But it got dark. I parked the tractor and went inside to get some rest. But a new day on the farm brings a whole lot of new problems. We got a huge list of jobs, from planting the wheat, fertilizing, mowing grass, to making new fields and maybe investing some money into some production. But let's start from the beginning. I got into the tractor, filled the trailer with TMR, and fed the cows. Then it was time for some fertilizing. I attached the fertilizer spreader and fertilized both of our fields. We also finally got GPS, by the way. Parked the spreader and went off to the store to buy some stuff. First, I bought a round baler for $69,680 and a bigger 2-meter wide plow for $14,500. Attached the baler and went back to the farm. Although I parked it in the shed for now. First, we need to cut the grass. I attached the mower, went off to our new lands, unfolded it, and started mowing. Then windrowed it and made exactly 33 bales. I parked the baler. Even though it is getting dark already, it is planting season and we got a whole lot of more jobs to do. I attached the seeder and went off to plant both fields with wheat. By the time I finished planting, it was 3 a.m. I parked the tractor and went inside to get some sleep. But the sleep was not long, as by 7 a.m. I was out and about already. I hopped into the case tractor, turned on all the lights, attached the flatbed trailer, and began loading in all the grass bales. I took us 4 runs to the shop to sell them all, but we increased our bank balance to $66,126. But we still have a massive list of jobs that we need to do before the winter comes. But first, we need to feed the animals. I attached the trailer, loaded it full of TMR, and loaded it into the feeding spot, and loaded what's left back into the mixer. But then I noticed something. I think we got some more buffaloes. And I was right. We got 4 2-month-olds. I sold all the fully grown ones, the 19-month and 31-month-olds, and bought 40 newborn limousines. As we do have way more land now, should be able to feed them all. I hopped back into the tractor, detached the trailer, attached the plow, and went off to make some new fields. First, we expanded our first field to be all the way to the hill. After a couple of hours, we had expanded this field and made a fresh one on the other side of the hill. We'll keep the rest of the land as meadow for now. But it was still only 2 p.m. I hopped back into the case, attached the flatbed trailer, and loaded in all the fruits and vegetables, which sold for $60,000. I parked the tractor, lifted up the greenhouses over the gardens, and we are all set for the winter. But this year we won't be able to rest. We got this whole forest to clear, but I am too tired to do it by hand this time. I hopped into the Lada and went off to the store. After hard negotiations, we worked out an awesome deal. We got an offer to rent this massive Komatsu harvester that can harvest trees up to 70 centimeters in diameter for $22,975 per day.
Man, this thing is massive. I've never seen one from so up close. The field of view from inside is insane as well. We can see everything.
I turned it on, lifted the header, and went off home. Unfolded the harvester, set the log length to 8 meters, and started chopping everything in sight. Took us 2 months, but cleared all of this land. Hundreds of logs on the ground. But this time we are big enough to start producing something. Rather than selling the raw material, I gave back the harvester and opened a catalog to see if we can afford any wood production plant. Most of them were too expensive. but found this simple one for $20,000 that will get us started. Spent $20,000 on the lumberyard itself, and another $2,000 on making a road to it. The plant had everything needed to process the wood, including the water dispenser. It will produce us furniture, long planks, regular planks, and wooden beams. But before we start loading everything in, we got an important job. I hopped into the Lada, went back, hopped in a tractor, attached the trailer, and fed the animals, started loading all the wood into the production plant. I moved all the logs. The whole forest is clear. But the lumberyard was not able to take it all in, so I just loaded it into these two massive piles. But while we moved them all, the lumberyard worked at full force and got full. So I ran back to the farm, hopped into the tractor, attached the flatbed trailer, and went off selling all the products. Sold the first load of planks for about $50,000, the second for $71,974, third for $33,000, fourth for $45,690, fifth for $62,380, sixth for $82,617, and the last one for $57,000. All in all, we got $427,711. So I went straight into the shop. Firstly, parked the case inside the dealer's workshop and spent $3,748 on service and repairs. And then it was time to go shopping. You will never guess what I bought. Yes, a new tractor. Wanted a Lamborghini but had to do with a Fendt. Added the biggest engine, coming at 303 horsepower. With all the bells and whistles, it came to $289,500. Also spent $30,500 on a front weight and $59,000 on this big, beautiful 4.9-meter wide plow. And once again was left with just $72,457 in the bank account. I drove back in the case tractor, while the worker from the dealer followed me in the brand new Fendt, came back to the farm, and sold the old Massey Ferguson that we don't use anymore back to the dealer for $11,910. I parked the case, immediately hopped into the Fendt, and went out to test it out, unfolded the plow, and started plowing. The 300 horses under the bonnet were pulling this massive plow like it was nothing, and driving it was just a pure pleasure, like sitting on a cloud. It took only about 20 minutes to plow this whole extension to the field. I parked the plow and our new toy for now. As much as I like driving it, we got some more important stuff to do. I went off to check on my gardens. The apple trees look fine, produced some apples even in the winter. I removed the greenhouses first. The gardens produced a ton of vegetables too, and they still got plenty of seeds and fertilizer. The raspberry garden was doing fine as well. Time to sell it all. We need money for a bigger planter for our new toy. I moved the old, boring case tractor out of the way and attached the flatbed to the big boy, loaded in all the apples and vegetables, sold the first load for $80,000 and the second one for $83,260, carefully backed into the dealer's workshop and sold off the flatbed trailer, bought the biggest cedar we can pull, which is this Kvernland Optima RS that is 9 meters wide, for $89,500, spent another $22,500 for a new flatbed trailer. I also bought some supplies for the planting season, 4 pallets of seeds, 4 pallets of solid fertilizer, 2 tanks of liquid fertilizer, and 2 tanks of herbicide. As always, they loaded everything straight into the trailer. I just put on some straps and was on my way. Loaded the cedar full of seeds and fertilizer, but got lonely. So I spent $2,500 on a dog, filled up on food. Not sure that's how you were supposed to eat though. Threw the ball, then I went to fetch it myself. Lost it inside the field somewhere though. Went back into the tractor and went off to plant. We'll plant this field with sunflowers. This modern GPS makes it so easy to work, we could go to sleep while planting. In no time we were done. I folded the planter and parked inside the shed and drove off to check the wheat field. They do have quite a lot of weeds growing on them. Needs lime and needs rolling. I hopped into the case, put some slim tires on it, attached the sprayer, but I noticed a problem. The case is almost out of diesel. I spent $26,500 on a big and beautiful fuel tank, ordered 10,000 liters of fuel for $13,750, filled up the tractor, filled up the sprayer with herbicide, spray some herbicide first, then some liquid fertilizer. It did take a while to do so. By the time we were done, it was completely dark. So I parked the tractor and went to sleep. Woke up, fed the dog, checked up on the cows, They needed food. I hopped into the fent.
How the heck did he get up there? I am not climbing up there to get him down. He can come down the same way he climbed up.
I loaded up the trailer with TMR and filled the cow pasture with some food. We are running out of it though, only 24 liters left in the mixer. We'll make some fresh ones when the grass grows. Hopped back into the tractor and went off to check up on the lumber yard. Wow, it produced so much stuff. It's far from full, but still. We might need to invest into some more production lines. It will take decades for this one to work and process all this raw wood. Went back to the farm, attached the new flatbed, sold the first load of wood products for $68,000, the second for $70,000, and the last one for $47,801. But we don't have time to spend the money now. Need to go make one more field. I parked the trailer, attached the plow, and went off to make new field. First leveled this small hill and started plowing. I made this massive new field and planted it with corn. Parked the planter and went off to sort out the wood situation. First, poured a huge slab of concrete and spent $30,000 on 3 additional production lines and an additional $45,000 on a roof to cover it from rain. This rock is kinda in a way, but we have no way of moving it. I went to the shop to buy something to move all those logs quickly. I bought this strange-looking wheel loader for $123,000 and a grapple for $6,500. Attached the grapple and made my way to the lumber yard. It was doing its job flawlessly. It took some time, but we loaded it all in. The yard is as clear as new. Went back to the farm, but I was too tired to do anything else today, so I went inside to have some rest. But the new day brought new challenges. I quickly fed the cows. We urgently need to make some more total mixed ratio for the cows. But first, I attached the flatbed trailer, loaded in all the fruits and vegetables, and sold it off for $66,118, but immediately spent most of it on a set of bigger mowers. Attached the front mower, then the back mower, and went back home. Unfolded the mower, and began cutting every piece of meadow we got. Around the lumber yard, around the house, around the cow pasture. Windrowed it all. Collected, and loaded into the grass dryer. Got over 200,000 liters of grass, parked the forage wagon, attached the flatbed trailer, and went off to check on the wood factories.
Oh wow, sunflowers are so tall already. We do need to spray some herbicide and fertilizer on them before they get too big. The corn is so big as well. Oh wow, the lumber yard is full again. Even the new lines produced a ton of stuff.
Sold the first load of wood products for $100,563. The second for $104,218. Third for $124,190. Fourth for $76,390. And the last one for $158,287. All in all, we got $575,738. Even though that's a lot of money, we need to be smart with it. First, we sold off all the equipment that we don't use anymore. All the hand tools, small sprayers, etc. Spent $30,500 on a new sprayer, $281,000 on a new combine harvester, $48,000 on a new header for the combine, $53,000 on a corn header, and $12,500 on a header trailer. Was left with barely $209,000 in the bank account. I hopped into the combine, attached the header, loaded it onto the trailer, attached the corn header, attached the trailer, and went home. Parked the combine inside the shed for now. Attached the new sprayer onto the case, loaded it full of liquid fertilizer, sprayed the sunflower and corn with fertilizer, then with herbicide. I parked the sprayer and got to thinking, we should buy some more land. Bought fields 27 and 37 for $85,000 each, but I got a simpler plan for this harvest. I hopped into the Lada and went off to the store, parked the car, and went inside. Negotiated an incredible deal. Spent $14,025 on a forest clearing machine, plus $2,550 for a header. We don't need any logs, so we will just use this incredible machine to clear all the land. I hopped into it, attached the header, and went to the new lands, unfolded it, and started clearing. Worked through the whole night, but managed to clear it all off. But we have no time to fix it all up now. It's harvest season. I hopped into our new combine, attached the header, and started the harvest. We got a full trailer and about half the bunker in the combine. I just need to decide what to do with all of it. Sell it or store it for future animals. Unloaded the trailer into silos. Unloaded the combine bunker into the silos. Spent $4,300 on a pressure washer. Cleaned the combine and parked it back inside the shed. But the wheat was only the secondary thing we needed. The main one is straw. We need a lot of it for making the total mixed ratio for the cows. Attached the forage wagon. Began collecting all the straw and unloaded all into the mixer. In total, we got 64,982 liters of straw. We just need a bunch of mineral feed now. Parked the forage wagon, attached the flatbed trailer, loaded in all the fruits and vegetables, sold it off for $87,187, and bought 40 pallets of mineral feed. Loaded it all into the mixer, filled the tractor with fuel, attached the front weight, attached the plow, and went off to make some new fields. Made 2 massive fields, but that brought us a new problem. All the new land needs lime. But first, I hopped into the fent, fed the animals, and went out to check on our sunflowers and corn.
The sunflowers are ready to harvest. Corn as well. And lumberyard full again.
I hopped back into the fent, brought the trailer to the field, got into the combine, attached the corn header, went to the sunflower field, and began the harvest. Finished harvesting the sunflowers, got a full trailer, and about 5,000 liters are still in the bunker, and went off to sell the first load. Got $40,718 for the first load, and $8,584 for the second. Parked the trailer, and began the corn harvest. But it proved to have a way better yield than expected. In just a few runs, we had a full trailer and a full harvester. Sold the first trailer of corn for $12,742. Loaded the rest into the silos. In total, we got 59,993 liters of corn. Parked the combine in the middle of the yard for now, turned off the lights, and went to have some rest. Slept in a little bit, woke up only at 9 a.m., and started the day off by washing the combine and parking it in a shed for the winter, then fed the animals, attached the flatbed trailer, and went out to check up on the lumber yards. They produced a ton of products, so I started selling it all off. It took a few runs, but managed to sell it all, taking our balance to $892,565, made my way back to the farm, parked the trailer, parked the tractor, and began to think of where to invest all this newfound fortune. Decided to invest in some more livestock. Spent $97,000 on a new sheep barn, another $80,000 for a pasture fence, then built 2 fish hatcheries for $75,000 each, $254,000 on a new cow barn, about $50,000 for the pasture fence, and another $5,000 on a dirt road to the cow barn. Bought 208-month-old sheep for $177,777, and 85 18-month-old Holstein cows for $95,625. Ran back to the yard, hopped into the fent, attached the trailer, loaded it full of hay first, and fed the sheep, then loaded a few trailers of TMR to the cow barn. But the new livestock brought a huge new problem for us. The cows need not only food, but also straw, and we also need to build a manure heap nearby. I had some considerations to sell off all the cows we grew for meat. The limousines sold for $1,730 each, and the buffaloes for $1,500 each, taking our balance to $93,653. I attached the flatbed trailer and went off to the store. Bought 16 straw bales and a straw blower for $32,000. Filled the cow barn with straw and went off home to check on the fish nurseries. But first, I demolished the old shed and made a dirt road to the nurseries. Filled the nurseries with corn and wheat and went off to the store to get some mineral feed. Bought 24 pallets of mineral feed. Loaded it all into the fish hatcheries. Soon this whole lake will be filled with fish. We still have some daylight left. I loaded in all the apples and vegetables on the flatbed trailer and sold it all for $85,526. I was about to go plant some wheat, but noticed that we missed the planting window already. So I put up the greenhouses over the gardens and went inside to get some rest. Got up, went outside, and immediately hopped into the Lada and went out to check up on our new factories and animals. The fish farm is still slow, but even then, produced 3 boxes of fish. Sheep, on the other hand, produce some wool, but they need food again. Cows, on the other hand, were doing just fine. I hopped back into the Lada and went back home, then got into the tractor, attached the trailer, fed the sheep, and fed the cows. Made my way back, and gone back inside. There just isn't much to do in the winter as everything is frozen. We calculated the food for the winter perfectly. We are completely out of total mixed ratio and of hay. The only thing we got left is some silage, and animals already got some meadow. We got so lucky, to be fair. We will need to make way more food for the next winter. But first, we need to sell all the products we got all around the farm. I hopped in the Fendt, attached the flatbed trailer, and started loading in all the wool. Sold the wool for $98,013. The fish got us another $70,438. And all the vegetables and fruit sold for $145,896. While at the shop, I bought some supplies. Spent $55,750 on a new fertilizer spreader. Bought 32 pallets of lime. Also got some incredible used machinery offers. A lizard truck with 56% discount. And a very good square baler with 64% discount. Bought both. Also spent $24,500 on a new flatbed trailer for the new truck. And $90,000 on a liquid trailer, and transported everything back to the farm, drove the truck to the cow barn, and loaded up all the milk, but selling it as raw material would be very stupid. We need to process it. I opened the catalog and built this cozy production plant for $55,000. It will take in milk and produce butter and cheese. I loaded in all the milk and went back to the yard, parked the trailer and the truck, got into the Fendt, attached the new spreader, loaded it full of lime, and began spreading all the fields with lime. It took half a day to spread all the fields, but we shouldn't need to spray any lime for the next few years. I washed off the sprayer in the tractor and parked it for now. We need to plant all the fields now, but doing so with just our small 9-meter planter will take half a year to complete. I attached the planter, drove to the field, and set off the worker to plant some corn. I ran back to the yard, hopped into the truck, attached the flatbed trailer, and went off to sell all the lumberyard products. Sold the first load for $216,226, the second for $305,333, and the last for $250,000. All in all, we got close to $800,000. But I immediately bought a 18-meter wide planter for $290,000 and spent another $380,000 on a brand new John Deere 8R series with 458 horsepower, hopped into the new tractor, attached the planter, loaded it full of seeds and fertilizer, and went off to the fields, unfolded the massive planter, and began the work. The new tractor worked flawlessly, pulling this massive planter at 20 kilometers per hour. Planted 3 fields of corn and 2 of soybeans. But all this new machinery brought us new problems. We lack space for it all. I demolished the old cow pasture and built 2 massive sheds for $35,000 each, washed off both the planters and tractors, parked them inside the new sheds, and went inside to get some rest. But after waking up, I immediately realized something. We planted all this land with crops, and this is the only piece of meadow we got left, as we built the pastures and all the rest. All the grass from that small piece of land will feed like 5 sheep and 3 cows. We need to find a way to get some grass, and do it fast. I hopped into the Lada and went out to check on the cheese and butter factory. It did produce some butter and cheese, but nowhere near to afford some more land. I got back to the yard, got into the big truck, and started loading everything we had produced. The apples, the fish. Ended up with a trailer filled with all kinds of stuff. Sold it all for $113,265. A load of wood products got us another $144,000. While at the shop, I spent $14,025 on the tree destroyer and $2,550 on the header. Bought Field 28, Field 38, and Field 29. And once again, we got back to being broke. Hopped into the Raptor, attached the header, and went off to the new lands and started clearing them all off. It took almost the whole day, But we got this huge area cleared. I gave back the tree destroyer, hopped into the John Deere, removed the double wheels and the front weight, attached the mowers, unfolded them, and started mowing. Hired a worker to follow me in the Fendt with a windrower. Worked through the day and through the night. But by the middle of June, we made 102 bales. Over 100 bales on the massive new lands. Well over 500,000 liters of grass mowed and baled. I made my way back to the farm, washed off all the equipment, parked the baler, and went off to the store to get an auto-loading trailer. But I couldn't afford anything. So I spent $4,590 to rent the bale trailer for a couple of hours, attached the bale loader, and went back to the new lands, collected the bales, loaded them into the grass dryer at first, but it quickly filled up, as it can only take in 400,000 liters of grass. So I delivered the last load just straight to the sheep, but the stack was too high to unload straight to the feeding pan. So we had to unload it next to the barn, folded the bale trailer, and went off to the store, returned the bale loader. But all this time of us working with the grass accumulated us a huge list of jobs to do. I began scratching them off by loading all the bales into the sheep feeding pan. But the skid steer couldn't go high enough to reach the bales. I parked it back in the shed, got into the old case we got, and went off to the store. Spent $8,500 on a front loader, $4,750 on a bale fork, and $3,050 on a bigger weight, and went off to the sheep barn. Loaded in all the bales. Time to check up on the cows next. They were almost starving, with only the meadow keeping them alive. 0 straw, 0 total mixed ratio, and 13% productivity. Attached the trailer, loaded it full of TMR, fed the cows, blown in some straw. We have only one job for now, spray the fields with herbicide, but that can wait till tomorrow. A new day brought new challenges. I immediately hopped into the case tractor, changed the tires, attached the sprayer, loaded it full of herbicide, and went off spraying.
We need to spray the corn somehow. They are just too tall for our sprayer. But there's one way to do it. One of these would probably be high enough to not destroy the crops, but we need to get an extra $300,000 or so.
I washed off all the dirt and parked the tractor inside the shed, ran to the truck, and started loading everything up. Sold off all the vegetables, fruits, and fish for $71,346. The wool, cheese, and butter for $102,107. But even after selling everything, we are still far off from being able to afford the new sprayer. But we still got some wood products. Sold off the first load of wood for $173,178. The second load for $112,844. And the last load for $136,869. We got our balance to over $600,000. Now I just need to choose which one to buy. We got 4 options ranging from $311,000 to $420,000. I decided to buy the most expensive one, with a working width of 54 meters, for $438,500. Man, this thing is huge. I climbed in, loaded in some herbicide, and went off to the fields, unfolded the sprayer, set up the GPS, and started the spraying. We were still hitting the tops a little bit, but it's way better. Spraying all the fields took almost no time. Washed it off, and parked it in the shed. We have spent 5 years in these lands. Went from a deceased forest to this massive farm in the jungle, from tiny equipment to these massive machines working the land. If you enjoyed the show, leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment of what you want to see next. See you in the next one.